Good morning, my friends. Welcome to Flow with Jess. It is a beautiful sunny Wednesday, and I was very late waking up, but I did eventually get Sadie to the dog walker, and I decided to go on this little adventure because you may or may not know, we've been trying to manifest a new home for like a very long time, and it's something that feels like it's taking a lot of like conscious effort because we have been in our home for like 6 years, and to uproot our entire family when we are like so embedded in our community and like, all of our, being a grown-up, all of your licenses and all of your tax forms and everything is set to this home address, and to like move is like it's a big leap. It's actually like a lot of work. And so I have been searching for homes like on Facebook Marketplace for so long, and driving around the neighborhoods that I think I want to live in. I'm looking for signs, I'm looking them up. I'm still trying to figure out if I can buy a house because like it's still a dream of mine, but it feels like a wild time for the housing market. At least that's the vibe that I get. And so it's scary. But I went on this adventure because there's this home that I was interested in, and I was like, it's right by the dog walker, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go take a look at it. And I drive up, and there's a for sale sign on it, and I'm sitting here being like, oh, and like even on the realtor listing, it says specifically both units vacant as of August 1st. I'm like, oh, they're like, what, trying to rent it for August 1st, but then simultaneously trying to sell the unit, and like, aren't we gonna get kicked out if we moved into it? Probably, maybe, I don't know, but like, I was just like, oh, that feels like information you should tell renters, that the house is also trying to be sold, because if it's sold, then you can like kick people out. And like, can you imagine uprooting your entire family, like your family, and like doing all of the things, and then having the house sell, and then you have to move again? Like, that would just suck so much. But it's a beautiful house, and I got to see. It was funny because I got to see the entire listing instead of just like the photos that they have on Facebook Marketplace, and I got to see the entire home. And like, it's a duplex. There's a huge backyard I couldn't see. It's right behind me is like the coves, so it's like the most beautifully serene area of nature that the city has to offer. So like, that's very appealing to me. Has a beautiful tree in front of it. And it has a small front yard. I've always liked a small front yard. Big, beautiful windows, huge garage, huge backyard, like, and like, listen, like, one of the things that's the most important to me is like walkability and proximity to nature, because I love to spend so much time outside, and it's very important to me. And I just saw a turtle. I don't think I've ever seen a turtle. Maybe I have in my life. But I saw a turtle. There was a turtle walking, and I got to go see it, and I was like, this is the coolest day ever. But yeah, I like this spot. It's so nice. But so then of course here I am being like, well, maybe I can afford to buy a thing and like rent out the basement, and like, that's the dream, that's the idea. But getting a mortgage is still like a super scary thing. So who knows? But it's freaking beautiful over here. My favorite park. I mean, Jacob's gonna be older soon, but like, they have like a toddler park. It's like small, and it's like meant for young kids. I would say like way at like under 6, but there's also like lots of green space and things like that. But it's beautiful. I like it. So I'm just like outside of this house right now, and I was like, I'm gonna record a video right here to stamp that this is like, I did this, I went to see, and yeah, we'll see what happens. It's very nice. It's very nice. But yeah, what else is happening in the world? I don't really pay attention to the world. I'm a little bit, does it feel a little self-centered? Maybe. One of my opinions, and maybe it's my youth or my rose-colored glassness, but one of the opinions that I have, and like, we'll see if we can work this out, because like everything else I say, it's just thoughts that have been not necessarily tried through time, but in this moment, with all of the information that I have now and the experience that I have now, and just simply the position that I take in this moment, it's true enough to me. But there's just always room for it to not be the truth, because it just simply is a version of my reality that I am living in this current moment. So one of the things that I say is that I don't pay attention to the news. Like I definitely scroll people online, like I definitely scroll on Instagram, but I am not subscribed to any news channels. And so what I see is just simply reposting from people if they have like a personal tie to an issue that's going on in the world. So if somebody's like outraged about a bill that's just been passed and they post it to their story, I see it. And then if I have interest in that particular topic, then I'll like Google it and get some additional information. But for the most part, I really stay out of the world. And this is at least what I've worked out thus far as to why that is. One thing I've noticed is that people that watch the news all of the time, they're always sad and depressed. You know, the news simply doesn't tell you any feel-good stories. They tell you all about all the crazy things happening in the world. And I believe it is a gift to be informed. But we do all know that there are ways to manipulate the population based on the news. Like we know who owns these companies. We know the information is curated specifically for the people that watch that specific channel. And that's why there's, you know, and I hate making things political, but we do know that there are red and blue medias. We just know that. And so the news does vary based on the sources that you watch. So what you can do, you can listen and read. You can read both. You can read newspapers for both. You can watch traditional news stations that are both. You can watch people that are both. Great. But one thing I notice when I like try to sometimes get into like world events and the news is like it's sad and depressing, and then you don't go touch a tree afterwards, and you don't realize that you are still rooted in your reality, which, like, again, if you are in a war-torn country, you're probably not watching this video right now. Like, you're probably sitting there in a world that's like pretty safe, dare I say, pretty okay, dare I say. Is there turmoil around the country? Absolutely. Is there a problem with homelessness? Absolutely. Like, yes, there's all the problems. I know. And I don't mean to turn an eye to problems, because I see the problems in my own city, and I don't have any solutions, but I recognize, at least in my own city, what seems to be going on in my bubble that is affecting the people around me in my community. And so I try to look at things from more of a community lens, because, okay, many thoughts. Let's divert for a second. One of the things that I got into for a little while was effective altruism. And I listened to some podcasts. So Sam Harris has his app called the Waking Up app, and it's like lots of meditations, which were great, but he also had conversations with people. And so years ago, I remember listening to this conversation with, and I don't know who it is, but I learned about effective altruism, and then I proceeded to kind of get into it and learn a little bit more about it. And so the basic premise of effective altruism is that you have, I like to say it like this, because he said it similar to this, and so I will repeat it. If you have the capabilities as an individual to make billions of dollars, millions of dollars, tons of money. I mean, you don't need to have tons of money. The basis of it is that effective altruism is that you you take your money and you donate it to causes that have the greatest impact on a global scale. So for example, dollar for dollar, what charities, because you know, so you can go on, there's websites where you can see the charity, and like, so out of the dollar that you donate, how many cents actually goes to the cause that they say versus like paying their employees, which in my opinion is also like not a bad thing, because gosh, so many things. The nonprofit industry is also a little bit messy, and people do not get paid for their services very well, because it's a charity and they're trying to like give it away to all of their causes, which is beautiful, but like the charities will not exist without the people behind it. And if you want to be a globally recognized charity or nonprofit and you want to do the best that you can, and we know that there are nonprofits that of course take the money and run and do it, and it's like, we know, but like especially these grassroots causes, their people need to get paid. They have families, and like the whole premise of effective altruism is putting those dollars to good use. And it's like, I believe that you also paying your people to do the good work and to fight the good fight is so important, because they need to take care of their families. If they are away from their families for 50 hours a week and you're paying them peanuts and they have to take a second job, they can't afford to, you know, do the things that they want as a family, like you're not utilizing that dollar well enough. Like if you are donating to a nonprofit, that you should recognize that that money is also going to the people behind the cause, and also sending, you know, nets to third world countries, because like they've decided that the most good, one of the causes is nets to prevent malaria. So that being said, dollar for dollar, you can choose charities that, you know, a full dollar goes to the cause, and like they're not paying people, and that's okay, because at least the most amount of the money is going to the cause that, and will create the most change in the world. But here's my beef about that. And it's beautiful because, like, again, we're a global economy and we have to help. We have the ability to help. We have the ability to help people, and these third world countries, especially, that can't really literally get off the ground, right? They can't get off the ground running. Absolutely wonderful. And I'm so happy that there's people in this world that are thinking about people on a global scale. And I think that we all are put on this planet for the reasons that we are, and there are people on this planet that are meant to take on the issues of the world and solve that, and to be of support of things on this really, really high level worldly scale. I totally believe that with my whole heart, but I don't actually believe that I'm that person. And so, because I don't believe that I am that person, I believe that there are other people like me. I believe that there are other people like me that are put on this planet to do things on a more community side. And so here's my thought about that. You know how we say, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup? A community, a country, a city can't pour from a debt, well, they do, but like in theory, you can't pour from a debt-filled country. Why are you sending money to people in other countries when the people of your own are starving? It's like, I get people for people, 1 = 1. I 100% believe that with my whole heart. But there is also this interesting philosophical thought that it's like long-termism or futurism, and they're trying to figure out, you know, again, dollar for dollar, like, should we be saving money for the people of 20 generations from now? Because technically, if a people is a people, if an animal is an animal, if it's a one for one, thinking about the future of our society, like literally multiple generations in the future, is also something that there are people working on, because we have to think again, we have to think about the longevity of our species and the longevity of our planet. Like, we can't think of things in a 4-year election cycle, you know? It's so important to think about things in the long term, because us choosing to put our time and energy into things of the immediate future, it's like we're just trying to band-aid everything, which obviously has its purpose, you know? Like, I think about a sinking ship. It's like you have to fill the holes first, and then once the holes are filled, then you can figure out how to get that boat back to shore. Sure. Right? Like, it's a complicated issue. There are so many things there's so many avenues to explore. But where I stand, and kind of circling back to, like, not really paying attention to the news and just kind of paying attention to, like, the local economy and, like, what's happening in my local community, is if I, as an individual human, am depressed, I'm very unhealthy, and I have poor relationships with my community, my friends, my family, with myself, I am not taking care of myself, I do not leave the house, and all I do is I'm like a little keyboard warrior, like looking up all the news of the day and stressing myself out and being like, I don't know what to do about everything. I am so sad. The world is chaos. Da, 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 da. And I'm not taking care of myself. How the heck am I going to enact change from that place of fear and anxiety and all of these negative, emotions that are just riddling my heart and my soul and creating this pool of sadness? I cannot be of service to myself or anyone else in that position. So what I believe is that, and like, it doesn't technically make sense to use the term effective altruism, but I think I wrote I've written about it somewhere. I've thought this through a little bit, but like, when I think of effective altruism, like dollar for dollar, trying to make the most out of what I have, the issue is that money is worth different things depending on where you are. So that's why when we send $1, it can do so much. But like, where if you put that dollar to, like, say I wanted to buy a meal for someone here in my city, it would cost like $6, where I could buy like 10 meals for $1 somewhere else. So they're doing this like this calculation and saying you can feed more people for people with that dollar in a different country. But like, I have this belief that if we as individual communities can figure our shit out, and if we can take care of our neighbors, if we can take care of ourselves, right? And our light is super bright, and we are bringing in prosperity, and we are bringing in abundance, and we are forming strong bonds with one another, which is like literally the most important, is the most important thing. We need to create these bonds in these communities in our areas. If we can all as individuals really take care of ourselves and get ourselves in this, like, to use the woo-woo language, if we can get ourselves high vibe and high frequency, and we are all on that wavelength as an individual, and we are attracting in all of those people, and we are all bringing in prosperity, we are all bringing in abundance, we are all living from a heart-centered place, and we are supporting one another, and we are with love, not just money, but with love. We're checking on our neighbors, and we are doing these things for other people, then our communities are going to be bright, and our communities are going to be active, and then we are all going to be able to get together on this community grassroots level, decide where we want to pool our resources in all capacities, and make those changes and make those shifts. And we can come together in our communities and our cities and our countries. And when that happens, then all of these individual communities can lift each other up. And if people need help and support, because of course they do, right? Then when everyone is able to create this better baseline for themselves, then we can start to shift. Like, I think about the United Nations, and I don't know what they do, to be honest. I really don't. I really don't get it. I really don't get what they're doing. And again, I'm not particularly well versed, but we're not united. And like, I know, again, and I think that the United Nations, because they have like, I forget the name of their conference. I can't remember what it's called, but like they plan for like 10, 20, 30. They plan for the futures of the world, and they are like, globally we want this to occur, but by whenever. So I know that happened. So like, I know that again, it's kind of like, that's a cool image. I think of like the there's the top-down approach, where it's like, from the top, where we have all these resources, we have everything, and then we are doing the best we can to support the world at large, and we like send that through the ecosystem, and then we have to trust that the people that we have, they keep distributing it down, but then we have this at the top. But then there's also these grassroots initiatives, and there's the individual level. So we have these global nations, then we have the national, and then the regional, and then the local, and then all the things. But then on the grassroots, we can do the same thing, right? So they have to get their shit together, absolutely, but so do we. We need to get healthy, people. We need to detox our life, from the bad. And I don't think it's and again, call me naive, call me youthful, call me whatever, there's obviously an element of that, and of course there is. Being the cool thing about being in your youth, which everyone, even if you were in your 50s and 60s, like, hopefully you remember or still have that fire and that spark that you had when you were like, do you remember when you were a kid? And like, do you remember that injustice that you felt for the first time, and feeling like you were powerless, but then you figured out a way to fight back, and you had this like, I'm just so excited, because it's like you have this fiery passion within you that you want to change the world, and we need that, from all levels, of course. And there is the element of like the wisdom and the experience and the recognizing that time, like there needs to be a lot of time, a lot of space, and a lot of things to come together in order for these things to happen. But like, we need that fiery element of people believing that change can be made, and that we can organize these things on a local level, and then that will also trickle up, right? You get your community together, you sign your petition, you bring it to your local MP, the MP gets it set. Like, there are so many things that we can do. And so I know that there's all these problems in the world. I know that. But I think that there are some people that are meant to not pay attention to that, and to focus on themselves and their families and their communities. And there is an obligation for you to be the best that you can be, to bring in the most abundance, to serve the most people. Again, everyone's purpose is different, so to serve the most people in a very because again, service is also a really interesting thing, because there's the caregiver effect, where you can focus too much on other people, and you don't focus on yourself, and all you're doing is giving and pouring from this empty cup, and that is not okay. Because at some point there is a very, very shadowy aspect to being a caregiver, and you have to be selfish in a way. There's this I saw this meme, or this photo, and it was taken from that 70s show, and Jackie, who everyone was like, she's like this ditzy, selfish girl, right? But she had this line, and it said, "The person I love the most is myself." I love that, because the person that you love the most should be yourself, because you are the person experiencing this life. You are the person experiencing this reality. And if you do not love yourself the most, and you do not put yourself first in a aligned way, you cannot go out and serve the world. like you are meant to, because we all have a purpose beyond ourselves, but we have a obligation to ourselves to support ourselves and to be there for us and to live this life with joy and kindness and love. That is our goal. That is the ultimate truth, in my opinion. Again, I don't claim to know anything, but you know, that is the truth that I hold. That is the truth that I hold very near and dear, is that we have to hold ourselves accountable for living a life full of love first. Because I believe that that is the key individually. That is the key to us surviving. Loving ourselves first, and then we can pour that love out to the people closest to us, and then those people can begin the process of loving and supporting themselves, and then supporting the people around you. And the more and more people that are doing that are going to create this ripple effect through their communities, and their communities are going to prosper. They are going to make these changes in their cities, and then the cities are going to grow, and then the countries are going to, like, it just, I have to believe that. I have to believe that. And I'm interested to know what you think. If you have any thoughts, let me know. I'd love to chat about them. Thanks for being here. This is fun, always. Positive thoughts, people. Positive thoughts. Read the shirt. I love this shirt. Positive thoughts. It's my favorite. It's my favorite shirt. Positive thoughts. It's like so bright. I don't know if you can see. Anyways, I'm gonna sign out. Enjoy the sun if you have any, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.